Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we're going to have two tracks from an act named Maddie Rose. And if we switch over to here, we've got this first track on Spotify titled Don't Wanna Lose You, as well as a live performance of another song they've made called Feel Bad Hate You. Now I should note that apparently Maddie Rose is in the quarterfinals of the America's Next Top Hitmaker competition, so apparently they're doing very well for themselves. I'm keen to hear more. And we're going to listen through each of these two tracks from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's get into it. Get the art up on the screen there. I like how the guitar is asymmetrical here on the sides of the stereo field.
Been thinking of you from a point of view about who you are, so pure, so true. I've been thinking about when I left your house, I left you there. I was so naive at the time, I didn't know.
Great coloration all around at the moment.
But I should have told you. I should have told you. I should have told you.
Well, I like that harmony at the end there with those extra layers.
I don't wanna lose you.
Well fleshed out chorus section, distinct.
Been thinking of you almost every day. The sky is blue, but I feel so gray.
Great use of the stereo field with the guitar on the other side.
Wrote a letter and left it on your porch, because I know you wouldn't answer the door. We were best of friends, didn't know that then, but I hope that someday we will be again, holding on to memories. We were each other's remedies. Why so black and white? We can try again. Do you ever think of way back when we were little, just playing in your room? Now all that time has been consumed. I should have told.
Yeah, no, that was smart. Bit of a bait and switch there, but it worked really well structurally.
I should have told you. I love you. I don't wanna lose I don't wanna lose you.
So that was a very wistful performance from Maddie Rose there. I think it's a fantastic first impression to their work. I think the song, it's a track about having someone who is really sort of special to you in your life. And they talk in the song about when they were younger hanging out together, and you kind of get the feeling that they are concerned they're just not going to have that person in their life anymore. And you go through stages and phases, and people go in and out of your life, but it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to sort of come to terms with as you get older. So I think that it's really well articulated, and the subject matter is handled with care here. Given that Maddie Rose is just 19 years old at this point, they're making really great steps in the right direction, I think, covering this kind of subject matter. And it was a very mature vocal performance. You know, we've got this kind of really interesting shimmer and sheen to our voice there, with the tiniest little bit of kind of like smokiness to it and grit, but it's done in a way where it's very classy. And I appreciate the color and flavor to the various sort of melodies that we sung in each of the different parts of the track. I think we were smart to adjust the layers and expectations of people as we went through it, being more sort of by ourselves in the verse sections as there was more context provided. And then in the chorus sections, layering in the mid to uppers and sort of really enveloping the track in a really kind of cozy blanket. I like the use of I also like the way it's produced in terms of like the filtering and EQing of the vocals and how stable they are in the mix, whilst also I think showing a little bit of vulnerability in certain components there. It's an authentic, expressive performance there where we sound like we're having difficulty kind of coming to terms with the reality of the situation. But we do it in a way we don't overpower the other components within the arrangement and mix, and we typically harmonize really neatly with the other parts of the track instrumentally as well. So ultimately, I think it's really well rounded in that regard. I think another thing that works here it's how the track is structured and developed with the instrumental layers. Having the kind of rotary kind of effect on those guitars on the left side there without much happening on the right almost seems like we're not having a conversation with anyone. We're simply sort of like saying our piece immediately, with the drums kind of filling in for a sense of groove and pace with a mixture of quarters, eighths, and sixteenths. It just starts in a way which is really interesting musically. Again, with like the tone of the reverb and the crispiness of the guitar tracks themselves, you know, there's like a little bit of kind of angst there, but it's not overdone. And I think that when we get the sweetness of the guitar on the other side in that second verse there, it just fills it out. There are different tones and textures to illustrate a positional movement forward. It's in a way that's promising. For the bass to come in in such a subtle way in that verse section to really sort of fill out that low end was fantastic. And just the added bit of kind of how vibrant it is with those additional vocal layers in that chorus section is just a fantastic contrast through the addition of those various parts alone. And I think there are some sort of dreamy additional lead guitar parts, if I'm not mistaken, in that final chorus section after the bait and switch with the interlude, because I think that was really neat. I was a little bit concerned that we were going to go back to the safe harbor of a chorus after that second verse, but to go to an interlude and sort of change things up a little bit, it just shows that we can't take the listener's attention for granted. So I think ultimately it sounds with those guitar takes over top, the lush nature of it, that we are sort of thinking things over and our memories are sort of flooding us and our emotions are flooding us like that. And there's some really interesting, I think the final thing I want to say about this track is that aside from the production being competent, it's the harmonies themselves there. We don't just roll with major and minor triads here. We've got some wonderful articulations of like sevenths and sixths and maybe ninths, like complications with extensions within those harmonies. Nothing chromatic or sort of like too kind of like off-putting. It's just incredibly deep sounding because of the complexity of some of those like total harmonies of the different layers combined. And it does illustrate, I think, the complexity of the situation that Maddie Rose is in, trying to sort of figure out their way out through these things. So the music does sort of communicate that really neatly. And then you just simply have a really competent performance instrumentally across the board without any weak points. And it's a fantastic first impression. So now we've got track number 2. Now, I should note this song, Feel Bad, Hate You. I'm going to be giving it an overall score out of 10 based on various musical criteria. That'll be within the individual like little mini conclusion for this piece at the end of the song. But I also want to note that while this is a live performance, apparently Maddie Rose is going to be recording it with like a local producer at the end of the month, so there's going to be a release for this. Apparently they've started working with a producer named Steve Ornest recently, if I'm not mistaken. So it's great that they're making waves. But let's do it. Let's go. But let's do it. Let's go.
Last night I was on the internet. I know I shouldn't be doing it, but I went on your page and I saw that you weren't at your best. I still ask myself sometimes, should I feel bad or should I hate you? As a matter of fact, should I even call you back? I know you won't even respond, and maybe I'd admit I wasn't right, but you were still wrong.
Interesting, like the intensity of the expression there and keeping that kind of high octane until we just come down at the end. I think it does mirror what she's just done quite well.
I saw you and had second thoughts. I'm hopeful you're not giving up. I know you have feelings. The things I used to think were the opposite. I thought you were all your old intentions, but it was misinterpretation. I didn't know that you might have a life that hurt you too. I'm sorry for the ones who were not good to you. Should I feel bad or should I hate you? As a matter of fact, should I even call you back? I know you won't even respond, and maybe I'd admit I wasn't right, but you were still wrong. I know you might still care. Before I wasn't aware. When you came over to my house to check on me, I thought you were just pretending to be scared. I was so scared. Maybe if I see you again, it won't have a bad end. I know we won't ever be friends, but maybe we can make amends.
Nice little bit of drama with that extra chord there.
The pages write new stories, breaking free from pain to glory. I'll sigh a breath of relief. I'll let forgiveness set me Should I feel bad or should I hate you? As a matter of fact, should I even call you back? I know you won't even respond, and maybe I'd admit I wasn't right, but you were still wrong. You were still wrong.
Interesting way to sort of resolve to a major chord at the end there. I kind of think that how I interpreted that is that it's inferring that it's good that we've been able to just come to terms with the reality of the situation, that it's okay for us to have been wrong because we can kind of grow out of it. It's just finding acceptance for how things are, maybe. I'm not quite sure.
Maddie Rose, everyone. Wow. Well, that was her first time here, but I sure hope it's not her last.
I sort of want to like give a shout out, because that woman's mentioning it's their first time there. I think it's really important when you're a musician to get yourself out in front of a group of people in a supportive environment But if you've got a song that you've recorded or you're working on, just to get feedback from people, it's good to do that. I know that seems like an obvious thing, and sometimes people will be very kind of like self-critical, and they'll be like, no, this is my baby, this is my art. I don't need other people's validation. And you just never know when you'll release something and people might dig it and they might want to hear it again. You know what I mean? So I'm really happy for Maddie Rose that they have a supportive environment to be able to put their music out and that they're able to do this live in front of people. And we're going to talk about this track in a moment. So let's talk about Feel Bad, Hate You. Now, I gave this song an overall score of 7.3 out of 10, which I feel is a good score. There were some things I really enjoyed. I really appreciated how they were really putting their all into it. They were putting their heart out onto the table. I know that sounds very much like a America's Got Talent kind of comment, but I mean that genuinely. Sometimes you see people and they're just so reserved. So it's really refreshing when people can literally just be comfortable expressing themselves like that. That's the human element to music. It's very important nowadays. This song appears to be about the fact that they had someone very close to them and they just could not, they had a big falling out. And they are looking back on that person and kind of, they've grown up a bit and they're like, yeah, I know I made mistakes. And I know that like, we won't be friends, but maybe we can find peace. And it just kind of illustrates sort of an awareness, I think, as we get older, we realize actually, yeah, sometimes we can do everything we can to improve ourselves, but the people around us, they might not be ready for that conversation. Yeah, they may never be ready for that conversation. So I think it's a story that affects Maddie Rose, but I think that it's done authentically and genuinely. And again, similarly to the previous track we had, Don't Want to Lose You, it's 2 for 2 in that regard. I think the stories are compelling. There'll be an audience for them, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to be able to hear it. This is a very different song to the previous track we had. It was predominantly piano and vocal focused, and I do think that it was well structured and put together. It was very conservative in terms of the way that it was composed, with occasional bits of color and flair with the harmonies and stuff like that, which I think were absolutely required. But I do think one of the strengths was Maddie Rose's vocals. And so I think we were trying a lot of really interesting melodies and tales and stuff here. And for the vast majority of the time, I think it worked really well. There were moments where we were exploring and it worked okay, and other parts they absolutely smashed it. And I think that's when we can sort of like funnel our vocal into a lead instrument, and I think it's just finding that balance. Typically we do that very well here, and there were some ways that we expressed ourselves that were just really beautiful, but we knew when to sort of pull back a little bit and have the notes come through a bit more sort of straightforward as well, for there to be prominent accented parts there. Because if you have a performance where we're kind of just going like wild the entire time, it becomes more about a proficiency as a vocalist as opposed to the story that we're telling. So I think it wasn't just that we sang well, but that Maddie Rose understood when to sort of like pull back a little bit and be a bit more kind of straightforward, and when she could kind of like, swim around and kind of spice things up. So you can kind of hear this track and close your eyes and imagine how it could relate to that sort of solo piano ballad there, that accompaniment there. I think that it's well phrased. It's very modern in terms of the approach to it. There are a lot of pop songs I've heard over the last 10 years or so and far beyond that have this format, and part of the reason is that it works very well. Clearly, Maddie Rose can play the piano well there. We don't have any crazy virtuosic components, but I don't think that would have necessarily have benefited things. Working with triads, having occasional chromatics or sort of like things outside the diatonic, like one part later on in like the chorus or like the interlude or something like that, was really cool. And I just think we didn't need other instruments, despite this being a bit of a longer song, primarily because, again, Maddie Rose could sing, and they continued to expand upon their story as they went along. And I think that's the key core component to storytelling. If you are a solo artist, you need to be able to keep people intrigued with the tale. If you have a consistency with your approach to instrumental parts, there needs to be something that changes on top of the foundation underneath. So we managed to find that there, which is good. But it was just great to have a competent piano performance alongside it. I think like thematically, in terms of like the chord progressions and the overall tone of it, I think that as a musician, it's trying to make extremely personal music that's still relatable whilst also trying to match expectations people have of the type of music you're doing, whilst also not making it too generic so that people forget it. I think here, with again the occasional chromatics, the occasional bit of kind of like spice and uncertainty there, the way that we know to kind of have a little bit extra on the right or left hand, and to kind of like that interesting melody at the start of the piece, which kind of didn't give away entire time. The fact that we finished on the major there, despite the fact that we thought that was still wrong. These are interesting compositional decisions that I think pay off here because they aren't what first people would expect, and that makes it makes it more memorable. You really cannot take for granted how many people are making really safe music that if there's no edge to it or not, if it just fits between the box the entire time, it's just far less interesting. So having that kind of having that unpredictability is good. And so you combine the vocal performance with the way it was played on the keys, and then the actual the approach to the way that it was the chord progressions and everything like that came together, and I feel it was good. And typically the piano and the vocals had a great chemistry with each other. So if I was to say anything, and I know again that they're going to be recording this at the end of the month in like a studio and getting studio time, I would recommend paying attention to some of the high mids, because there is a resonance in the microphone there at one point where a note was being held. It wasn't Maddie Rose. It was just the way that the audio was, and it was a little bit sharp in terms of the way that things were maybe graphically cued on a disc. So just to confirm, that's not Maddie. And Maddie's has a nice tone of voice, and Maddie Rose has a nice sort of timbre to it. It's just there was one specific note where it was held for a bit, and it was just a little bit kind of like harsh. So that's just a production comment. But like in live situations, you're not going to get a studio tone unless you're working in like a multi-million-dollar arena or something like that with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of live tech. So overall, very, very happy about it. We're going to talk about these tracks more in the conclusion. And so welcome to the conclusion of my review of these two tracks from an act named Maddie Rose, titled Don't Want to Lose You and Feel Bad Hate You. We've spoken about each of these individually within our own individual sections, so I'm just going to talk about a few things here that I think particularly stood out across the board in terms of Maddie Rose's music. I think that, Don't Want to Lose You and Feel Bad Hate You are about interpersonal relationships and ourselves kind of figuring those out. And I look forward to, hearing, if I get the chance, either way. I'll be keeping an eye out, I think, because they do very well for themselves. They're a solid musician. It's been a pleasure to review their music today. But it'll be interesting to hear what else they want to sing about. They can sing really well. I like their vocal technique. They're very comfortable not just singing notes and more sort of like safe melodies, but they also do like the flurries and the flickers and all those kind of really sort of advanced technique things that for the most part were done really, really well. I appreciate that we could also do harmonies when required, and like Don't Want to Lose You when we had the capacity in the studio. And it'll be interesting to hear what happens with this track when we decide to flesh it out within the frequency spectrum and stereo field with that. There's a core competency across the board in regards to how Maddie Rose does music. And it's a pleasure to listen to in part because we not only sing well, but we also emote and express well. And typically what we're doing matches well with the instrumental parts underneath it. I think in addition to that, whether we're playing the keys, whether we've got the guitars, the bass, the drums, whatever else, we know how to layer ourselves in more traditional instruments. And we typically, again, we have a texture and timbre to our voice as well as a direction with our music where the major and minor choice, as well as the occasional chromatics or things outside the diatonic and the extensions and the harmonies of songs such as Don't Want to Lose You and Occasionally Feel Bad Hate You, they all work really neatly. I think that the balance that we had with the drums with like the sort of quieter hi-hats with the kick and snare grooves and Don't Want to Lose You worked well. I think that the way we layered things asymmetrically with the guitar takes in terms of production worked well. So there's decisions being made here, and I think the guidance of other people alongside Maddie Rose as they continue to grow is pivotal, simply so that we have every area well sort of like met, because we've got a potential, and I think especially again because we're doing really well in this competition, America's Next top hit maker, and so I think that they can go someplace really interesting if they keep it up. So we have a sort of a finesse for writing music and performing it as well, and we have the people involved that I think we need to in order to elevate it, and I think our vocals are handled well. And I think it's just, as long as we are sort of like on point with the production and have everything leveled with like the vocals and the guitar takes, and we continue to do these interesting things in terms of the post-production, I think it's simply just figuring out more of a core identity as we work towards doing more music and just exploring the possibilities. We live in a day and age where you can do incredible stuff with music. It's so much you can do that's just so awesome with the technology nowadays. And it seems like Maddie Rose has a really supportive environment around them with people that really care about what they're doing. So I wish them this luck in future. It's all positive, basically. It's all positive stuff, really. Thank you for watching my review of these 2 tracks from an act named Maddie Rose, titled Don't Want to Lose You as well as Feel Bad Hate You, and hopefully you enjoyed them. If you did, please do go show Maddie Rose some love via their various social medias and their YouTube and Spotify pages, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next SB Reacts. Spiderhands out.